The year the college entrance exams were reinstated, my fiancé, an educated youth, met with an accident on his way back to the city. All he left me was the news of his death, 10 yuan, and 3 jin of grain ration coupons. I cried so much I lost the sight in one eye, and through gritted teeth, I gave birth to our child out of wedlock. Decades later, my hair had turned white from exhaustion, and my body was riddled with illness. While selling street food, I unexpectedly ran into him back in our hometown. He had brought his wife and children for a trip down memory lane. In the prime of his life, with a beautiful wife and beloved children, he returned home in glory. Pointing in the direction of my house, he said, "I was sent down to work here back in the day. Country women, driven mad by poverty, would do anything to get to the city. Once you got involved, you couldn't shake them off. If I hadn't told her I was dead, she'd never have given up." My whole body trembled, and hot blood rushed to my head. As I reached for the pan of hot oil from the street vendor, he suddenly recognized me, panicked and tried to turn the car around, only to crash head-on into another vehicle. When I opened my eyes again, I had gone back to being 18. The news of the college entrance exams being reinstated had just arrived. My parents were still alive and well. Yi Jianba had just returned to the city to visit family, rejected by the love of his life. He came back in a huff, frustrated and resentful. In my past life, he sought solace in me and took possession of me. This time, everything is still possible. Yi Jianba stayed at my house until he returned to the city. He was a handsome man. The young women and wives from the surrounding villages all loved to look at him, but he looked down on everyone. There was plenty of work in the countryside, but the locals took good care of the educated youth and gave them lighter tasks. The fine wheat flour and meat the villagers could hardly bear to part with all ended up in the stomachs of the educated youth. Yi Jianba was too thin-skinned to fight for his share to save face, so he always missed out. His face was dry and sallow. During the new year, I helped my uncle slaughter the hog. We gathered the bristles to make brushes, which we traded for half a jar of lard. I would hide that lard in the meals I brought him every day. That's how his complexion gradually began to improve. Those 3 years, I grew from a little girl into a young woman. Yi Jianba was one of the literacy class teachers. After seeing my writing and arithmetic, his gaze lingered on me more and more. "You have a real gift, Xiang. You're not like the other girls." He still kept handwritten poems tucked away, waiting for you. In the rain that weaves a rainbow, the cicada's drone subsides, the frog's chorus rises. As he read the poem, his gaze was warm and focused, resting in the sunset, filled with a profound tenderness. That was exactly what drew me in back then. I was 16 when they showed the movie Green Pine Ridge in the neighboring village. Everyone went in small groups to see it. That day, I fed the pigs early, got changed, let my hair dry in the sun and braided it, and fended off my friends who came to fetch me. But he wasn't in the mood. Everyone at home has left. I went back and called to him again. "Let's go. It's a rare, perfect day to relax." He suddenly grabbed my hand. "Xiang, you've been spending a lot of time with Fu Xingyang and his crowd lately. Are you trying to make friends with them, too?" Fu Xingyang was a sent-down youth too. You know, he's actually quite easy to talk to. I was just borrowing a book from him. Easy to talk to? Hardly. His own family doesn't even bother with him, and he's full of bad habits. Don't pay him any mind from now on. He was jealous. And that day, under the setting sun, he kissed me. He said he'd liked me for a long time. He said he'd made up his mind. He was willing to stay here for me. How could someone so inexperienced possibly resist a kiss? I just casually hooked my arm around his neck, and his whole body shuddered. The moment I touched his waist, he jolted as if shocked by electricity. He's becoming more and more infatuated with me. "You said you wanted all of me." I was shy and refused. Until tonight, a loud crash outside snapped me back to reality. My mother came back pushing a flatbed cart, drenched in sweat. She had secretly sold vegetables from our private plot to get fabric ration coupons and buy new cloth. She called me outside to take my measurements. As the soft measuring tape wrapped around me, I burst into tears. I turned and hugged my mother, who was not yet sick with anger from the gossip. My mother chuckled. "Silly child, is a piece of clothing worth crying so much over? My sweet Xiangxiang is so lovely. The best days are still ahead of you." Yes, the best days are still ahead. Once we get through this year, the large-scale return to the cities and the reinstatement of the college entrance exams will begin immediately. The first year's exams weren't that difficult. Because of Yi Jianba's death, I had pored over that year's exam papers until they were practically worn smooth, memorizing every single character and symbol. The rain outside was coming down harder and harder. My father told me to take an umbrella to Yi Jianba, who was running an errand at the educated youth office. I refused. Instead, I added an extra spoonful of lard to the rice for my parents and myself at dinner. I didn't leave a single thing for Yi Jianba. After finishing the meal, I went back to my room. Outside, thunderclaps boomed one after another. On this night in my previous life, Yi Jianba returned from Director Zhang's house, his eyes bloodshot. He pulled me into a tight embrace right at the door. Asean, I can never go back. There's no one waiting for me at home anymore. He buried his face in my chest, and tears began to fall. Then, he clumsily lifted his head, seeking my lips. In a moment of weakness, I didn't refuse him. I let him draw me into the workshop. On the rough windowsill, he pressed against me from behind, foolishly. I was still trying to comfort him. It's okay. Everything will be fine, even if we can't go back. We can take the college entrance exams together. I can take it too, right? He let out a muffled gasp and grunted. Yeah, little did I know. The real reason was that his childhood sweetheart had broken up with him that day. Heartbroken and disillusioned, he used me as a substitute to vent his feelings. And what's more, I never expected them to make up the very next day. He regretted it, yet he kept coming back to see me. In the heat of the moment, he kept sweet-talking me, promising to propose as soon as his exams were over. The night before he left, he insisted I walk him out. He stopped several times along the way. Xiang, I'll love you forever. I'll always be thinking of you, he said, over and over. Later, my period was late. My parents caught on, with things having gone this far. All we could do was grit our teeth and wait for him to make an honest woman of me. But who would have thought, once the exams were over, he just vanished. There was a sound at the door. Jianbai is back. He stood in the kitchen for a moment, and when he saw I wasn't bringing him his meal as usual, he came over to my door. He knocked. Xiang, are you asleep? You know I'm asleep and you're still knocking. Are you insane? Outside the door, braced by the wooden stick, everything fell silent. That night, I slept more soundly than I ever had before. The next day, I woke up feeling refreshed and clear-headed, and walked to the kitchen. He actually got up and even took the initiative to get me a meal. Morning, Xiang. I ignored him completely and just grabbed another bowl. After eating, I went to find my uncle, who was the team leader. The educated youth take turns staying with local families. Yi Jianba has been at our place for so long now. Isn't it time for a change? Uncle looked at me in surprise. But it was you who begged me not to switch him out before. We still have to follow the rules. Let's switch. We'll do it today. I walked out the door, then turned back to look at this elder who would later pass from lung cancer. Uncle, you should cut back on that pipe. They say you're smoking away your good fortune. Uncle chuckled in exasperation as he put away his tobacco pouch. You little brat, he asked again. Then who should we replace them with? How about Lu Shanxue, a female educated youth who had lost her mind after being unable to return to the city, yet who once ran 5 miles in a frenzy to fetch a doctor when I was giving birth. When Yi Jianbao returned from literacy class, he found me coldly having rolled up all his belongings and piled them by the door. Too proud to lose face, he left without a word. On his way to work, he took a detour to see me. His eyes darted around as he thought it over carefully. Don't listen to that gossip, he said. Li Sanmei from the next village did try to give me gloves, but I didn't take them, and as for the steamed buns from Sister Wang, I shared them with you when I got back. Is this about Lu Shanxue? She's the only female educated youth in our group. We've only exchanged a few words, but with her looks, how could she possibly compare to you? I told him there was nothing between us and to leave me alone. He didn't believe me and tried to pull me back. In the struggle, we both tumbled into the ditch. We were soaked from head to toe. Don't be upset. Is it because I kissed you the other day? I won't do it again. Let's take things slow. His body was more honest than his words. There was a response from nearby. I was suddenly overcome with nausea. I shoved him away, and this time he was genuinely angry. If you want a proper title, if you want to go public, I can agree to that. He stood there, waiting for me to throw myself into his arms. The villagers heading to work nearby heard the commotion and came over to pull us apart. Someone caught on to what was happening and started teasing us. Oh, what's the story between you two? Yi Jianbao looked at me with a faint smile, raising an eyebrow. He wore an expression that said, you should be grateful. Indeed, for an uneducated country girl to catch the eye of an educated youth from the city, what a stroke of luck. In the past, men like him only had to crook a finger, and young maidens and married women alike would blush and flock to him. Even the ban on relationships among the educated youth couldn't stop it. I brushed the water off my clothes. I gave a cold, mocking laugh. What's our relationship? He's my debtor. He borrowed $18 from my family, and I want my money back. The onlookers suddenly understood. So that's what this is about, money. Yi Jianbao's face turned ashen as he lowered his voice. Qi Guixiong, your little act just cost you your last chance to change your fate. Ha, my chance to change my fate comes after May. With the college entrance exam, what does any of this have to do with that? I got home, and my parents still didn't understand. Doesn't Jianbai treat you well? What's wrong? Yeah, he treats me very well. Last year, I accidentally cut my foot while harvesting wheat. There was no medicine. Yi Jianba, having heard an old folk remedy, went around collecting cobwebs and nearly got bitten by a snake. The look of heartache on his face was impossible to hide. He would have gladly suffered in my place. After all that commotion, everyone knew there was something between us. Now that we've had a falling out, half the village is watching the drama unfold. They say I'm up all night, and everyone's gossiping that I've lost my mind after being dumped by Yi Jianba. I wanted to borrow some books, but Yi Jianba, pulling strings with the head of the Educated Youth Office, declared that anyone who helped me was crossing him, forcing me to waste state resources out of sheer spite. Everyone else laughed. A country girl wanting to take the college entrance exam, she's gone mad with her daydreams. My mother tried to talk sense into me. Don't be so stubborn with Jianbai, forget about our village. Our entire county might not even produce a single college student. The teacher at the village primary school said as well, Xiang, it's not that I won't lend you the books, the Gaokao isn't something you can pass by cramming for a couple of days. There's Chinese, math, and that dreadful English. Even if you tried to cheat on the spot, you wouldn't have time to copy it all. My parents sighed. Face it, Xiang, we're just country folk through and through. This is who we are. Only Lu Shanxue, who brought me the textbooks late at night with her head bowed, said nothing. In silence, she handed me 2 worn-out textbooks. Aren't you going back to the city to take the exam? We only have 1 room at home, with my brother and his wife married and living there. It's 5 people crammed in. My mother told me not to come back, just to send some money if I could. I reached out and took hold of those hands, so thin they were misshapen. In her past life, Lu Shanxue never went home. The Educated Youth Office said they'd arranged a job for her in the county town, but less than 2 months later, she returned covered in injuries. She would scream at the slightest touch. After she lost her mind, a lame man from the village married her. She was often beaten, and would always hide in our haystack. When I was pregnant and other children threw mud at me, she would chase them away. She'd get pelted herself, but kept telling me to hide. I looked at the sallow, emaciated girl before me. They say I'm crazy for wanting to go to university. What do you think? A fleeting, bitter smile flashed in Lu Shanxue's eyes. I smiled. So, are you in for a little madness? The Gaokao is no easy feat. There were no teachers, no textbooks. The educated youth would laugh the moment they saw me. Look, the college student is out for work again. The villagers laughed too. They're betting on you, wagering whether you can even score a 10 in a single subject. Lu Shanxue flushed red and stammered in protest. Xiang is very smart. Oh, okay, then 20 points. For every point above that, my family will supply your family's vegetables for a year. For every point above that, my family will supply your family's rice for a year. They all laughed and joked around. I laughed too. Got it all down. Thanks everyone. Little did they know, in my past life, I had practically worn the exam papers from that year to shreds, all because Yi Jianba's actions had killed my chances during the college entrance exams. With no support from my family, Lu Shanxue and I worked during the day and studied at night, eating better at my place. Lu Shanxue filled out a bit, revealing a delicate and refined appearance. My brother started paying attention to washing his face, tidying up, and saving portions of food. One evening while we were both reading, he unexpectedly brought over a plate of wild loquats. Each one was a bright, golden yellow and had been washed clean. Lu Shanxue's face flushed slightly. I held her hand still and closed the door. Sister Shanxue, these loquats grow right there, ripening yellow every single year. In 20 years, my brother has never once done this for our parents, but this year, he picked them for you. You should understand what that means, but in the future, don't be moved by this kind of thing. Anything he can do, I can do too. For a few cents, any kid in the village could bring you back a whole basket. We need to study hard. Later, you'll see that beyond these mountains, there are all kinds of loquats, big, sweet ones. If you still think you like these wild ones, then you can try them again. Shanxue was taken aback for a moment. It's just that I've never felt like there was anyone. She composed herself and withdrew the hand holding the loquat. The burning rushlight oil made her eyes sting. My eyes were red every day. Along the way, Yi Jianbai sent another educated youth to find me. First, to repay the money, but he only gave back 8 yuan. Second, to offer me a way out. He said his neighbor needed a live-in maid, room and board provided, but no wages. He promised to come by when he had time to tutor me. I threw him out. Who does he think he is? Planning someone else's entire life. Get out, get out. You make me sick. Yi Jianba. who had been hiding to the side, flushed with anger and humiliation, slammed his hand against the door to block it. Stop pretending. What's your education level? Do you think I don't know? We've already kissed. What's with the intellectual act in front of me? My mother's face instantly went pale. Jianbai, don't talk nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense. TSK, she closes her eyes whenever I kiss her. She's quite practiced at it. He lowered his voice. You don't need me to tell you how important a countrywoman's reputation is. Come with me now. And there's still time, so he does understand the importance of reputation, how gossip can destroy a person. In my past life, for 20 years, he insisted on sleeping with me and getting me pregnant before he left, then abandoned me, pregnant, in the countryside, pretending to be dead. How could he not know what kind of hell that would be for me? His wickedness was never something that developed later, it was rotten to the core from the very beginning. The higher such a person climbs, the greater the harm they cause. He stared at me, his eyes held nothing but resentment and possessiveness. It was a world of difference from the slight impatience he'd shown toward me in our previous life. After he'd gotten what he wanted, get the hell out of here, I hurled an enamel mug at him, cracking his head open, as he clutched his head. Lu Shanxue had already let the dog loose. Yi Jianba and his crew scrambled away, leaving behind a final threat. Fine, you can all just wait to go down together. The college entrance exams were in another city, short on money. Lu Shanxue and I set off on foot early. When we reached the village entrance, my mother gave me a talisman. Forget about the exam for a moment. Just promise me you'll be careful. I gave them a hug, and they seemed a little flustered by it. When Lu Shanxue and I arrived at the exam hall, we unexpectedly ran into Yi Jianba. He was wearing the gloves I knitted for him last year. He always used to say they were ugly, so I thought he'd thrown them out long ago. He looked at me and said, "A woman who's this stubborn won't get far. Did you go through all this trouble and expense just to spite me?" Just then, a girl with a face full of freckles asked in a sugary sweet voice. "Jianbai, who is this?" Upon hearing my name, Su Yiman raised an eyebrow. "So this is the woman you wanted to introduce as a nanny for my family. She looks rather cheap," she said coldly. "She'd be better off with my neighbor's disabled son. They'd be a perfect match." Before I could even get angry, Lu Shanxue snapped back. "Aren't you an even better match? One's physically disabled, the other's mentally disabled." It looked like a fight was about to break out. Yi Jianba chose to back down. "Alright, man. They're both from the countryside. They might be trying to rile us up on purpose to mess with our exams, so getting angry could affect your exam performance." I couldn't help but snort with laughter. "Yi Jianba, you can't even grasp linear algebra to save your life. Do you even know the difference between terminal velocity and acceleration? And you still have the nerve to show up for the exam." "Su Yiman, Jianba doesn't dare. And you think you do? A country bumpkin like you wouldn't pass even if you tried. And what if I do pass? Su Yiman, if you actually pass, I'll fry a fish on the palm of my hand for you." I chuckled. "Don't be disgusting. If I get in, he can streak once around the whole campus." Su Yiman sneered. "Fine. And if you don't get in, then you too streak." "You dare." Lu Shanxue stepped forward. "If she fails, I'll streak. If she gets in, you streak. Deal." Su Yiman agreed without hesitation. "Deal. Whoever backs out is cursed with a lifetime of bad luck." A faint smile touched my lips. Yi Jianba looked at my smiling face and was momentarily lost in thought. Xiang," he said, "why are you being so stubborn? The exam went exactly as expected. The radio will announce the scores in a month." Actually, we had already submitted our university applications before the exam scores even came out. Both Lu Shanxue and I had chosen universities in Beijing. After checking the scores, Lu Shanxue came back with her hands trembling and her face completely pale. I kept my head down and went back to work. The villagers waiting in the courtyard weren't really surprised. "I told you, how could he possibly pass?" Even the teacher from our village school took the exam and said he couldn't understand the questions. He only scored a little over 80. What a waste of a few days. With that, the crowd quickly dispersed. Shanxue gripped my hand tightly, struggling to suppress the turmoil in her heart. "Why can't we even tell our own family?" Last year, second aunt secretly grew a patch of chives at home and even shared them with the neighbors. Just because she traded for an enamel mug in the county town, the chives were all pulled up by the roots the very next day. Good fortune must be hidden. Must be endured. Xiang. "I'll listen to you." Another month passed, and acceptance letters began trickling in, with the newspapers publishing daily announcements of good news. I was busy making a suitcase out of old planks of wood for Shanxue and me. The courtyard suddenly became lively. It was Yi Jianba returning. He was beaming with pride. We heard he scored 210 points even before he arrived. I was taken aback for a moment. This score was a full 30 points lower than in my previous life. Based on this year's admission cutoff, if he still wanted to attend that Shanghai university from his past life, this score would definitely not be enough. The villagers showered him with flattery. He slipped into the tool shed, saying he was giving me one last chance. Xiang, I've spoken with Man. You've looked after me for so long. After all, if you can't make it here, you can come with me to Beijing. You could start as a nanny for one of her relatives. It's better than staying in this backwater. With your reputation and having missed out on school, what would you do if you stayed? As he finished speaking, his hand came to rest on my shoulder. I turned to look at him, and his eyes instinctively went to my lips. After all these years, I do have feelings for you, he said. Ever since I got back, I keep dreaming of you. I don't know why, but it's always this tool shed. I was taken aback. Had these events from a past life turned into dreams? His voice dropped low, gripping the window frame. His fingers tightened as if holding back. It's raining outside. You were standing right here, leaning over in this exact spot. It felt so real. Xiang, I've missed you so much. I can barely sleep. I've always felt, this is how it should be. You were meant to be mine. His eyes held a completely undisguised, raw desire. So, you're coming with me. Have you made up your mind? Just then, a cry of excitement suddenly came from outside. Good news. It's here. The exam. Passed. The one who arrived was the village cripple, Shiguang. In my past life, he stole Shanxue from me, and I've always found him despicable. The day after his mother died, he blocked the road demanding money, refusing to let anyone pass to attend the funeral unless they paid. The moment you step through the door, they're asking for money. Yi Jianba was overjoyed. How did the good news chase me all the way here? Who's come to fetch me? The lame man pushed him away. He said it was the good news for me and Shanxue. He ran over in a hurry to deliver it. The postman is on his way, and the town officials are coming too. Yi Jianba simply didn't believe it. How could that be? Both of them, they both passed. You might as well tell me the village school teacher passed. A sudden realization dawned on him. Oh, I get it. You're in cahoots with them to trick me, aren't you? I know you've got a soft spot for Lu Shanxue. You're helping her, right? The lame man was hopping with impatience. It's true. I came to fetch Qi Guixiang. If you don't believe me, come along and see for yourself. Yi Jianba was even more skeptical. Just then, the people sent to fetch him arrived outside. He held the doorframe, giving us a pitying look. Qi Guixiang, this is your last chance. Are you coming with me or not? Man is kind and not a snob. If you apologize to her sincerely, she's not that difficult to talk to. If you don't leave, you'll be stuck like this for the rest of your life. No sooner had he spoken than a clamor of music and commotion erupted outside. A crowd of people had indeed arrived. Lu Shansu, who had just been outside doing laundry, walked at the front of the group. The basin in her hands had already been taken by someone. In that instant, her lips were pressed together, but her eyes were smiling as tears suddenly welled up and rolled down her cheeks. I smiled faintly. The others came pouring in with a clamor, and 2 neighbors had already been sent to fetch my parents and eldest brother. Stop watering the plants. She got in. Your daughter got in. A university in Beijing. Nonsense. Not a university in Beijing. It's Peking University. My parents, dazed and confused, were ushered over. He stared at the scene before him, then turned to look at me, dazed. I reached out and took the postal notification with both hands. A deathly silence fell all around. I turned my head to look at a few familiar faces from the village. Third brother Li, you said it yourself. If I score even 1 point over 20 in any subject, you're buying my family's groceries for a year. Ninth brother, you said if I got 1 point more, you'd cover my family's rice for the whole year. This time, they weren't snickering anymore. They switched to awkward, hollow laughter. Xiang, these are all your elders from the family. They're just encouraging you. We could tell you were clever all along. That's right. This child has been special since she was little. When she was born, the whole room was bathed in a red glow, and the family gravesite caught fire. Isn't that a sign of the ancestors smiling down from heaven? Only Yi Jianba, standing to the side, looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. How is this possible? How? I only got a little over 200 points myself. How could she possibly get over 300? Did they add up her scores from all 8 subjects in both arts and sciences? He reached out to snatch my admission letter, but several people immediately grabbed and held him back. Impossible. That can't be right. It's definitely wrong. I looked at him and gave a light smile. Well, getting into a Beijing university with a score of 200 is indeed impossible. Maybe you could try applying to a school in Hubei with lower requirements. Yi Jianba flew into a rage. I'd rather die than apply to a school in Hubei. Perfect. In my past life, he managed to get into Hubei University as a backup choice, a real stroke of luck. Yi Jianba turned to leave in a huff. I stopped him. Wait, still simmering with anger, he paused. What is it, Qi Guixiang? Don't think getting into university by some fluke makes you my equal. My family has an urban residency permit. Hey, I want to ask you about that $10 you owe me. When are you going to pay up? Trying to run off and weasel out of it. In my past life, the $10 he left me with disgusted me for a lifetime. In this life, I won't back down over a single cent. Yi Jianba's face flushed red, but he couldn't scrounge up the money. How could you become so mercenary? It's only 10 yuan. Is it really worth all this fuss? I stared at him coldly. 10 yuan was a whole month's worth of work points for me. That could buy 40 jin of rice, 200 jin of Chinese cabbage. That's enough to cover a year's tuition for middle school. Back then, he said a relative of his was sick. I lent him the money I'd saved up over several years and told him not to worry about paying it back. I only found out later he used it to buy a gift for his girlfriend. He was too embarrassed and angry to produce it, when a woman's voice came from outside the door. Su Yimin said she'd cover it. Her haughty tone was just like in a past life. When she revisited this place, fanning her chin with a silk scarf, the pockmarks all over her face were particularly conspicuous. She looked at us with contempt. Jianba, you too, we're from Beijing City, why bother arguing with a bunch of country bumpkins? It's just a bit of money. My mom said she'd give me 50 as a reward for getting into university. Her eyes lit up as she looked at the red gong. With all this fanfare, is it to celebrate you getting in? You must have aced it. You even chased me down here to share the good news. Wow, let me guess. Peking University, Jianba, why do you suddenly look so pale? I couldn't help but snicker. Su Yimin frowned. What are you so happy about? My Jianba getting in has nothing to do with you. I called out to my brother. Taking my time, bro, could you fetch me a soft-shell turtle from the back pond? Su Yimin said if I got in, she'd pan-fry a fish right on her palm for me. Su Yimin immediately lost her composure. You got in, how on earth could you have gotten in? Lu Shanxue smiled at her. I got in too, we had a deal, remember? So, how exactly are you two planning to make your run? Upon hearing they were going to streak, the villagers erupted in excitement. With the lame man pushing his way through the crowd to secure a prime viewing spot. Run right now. Can I run with you? Su Yimin immediately regretted it. Turning around in shame and anger to flee, she instead tripped and fell flat on the ground. Sobbing, I shouted a reminder. Don't forget what you said. You'll be cursed with bad luck for life if you don't do it. Both Shanxue and I went to Beijing. University tuition was free. And graduates were assigned jobs. My exam scores were decent. But my actual foundation was weak. I chose the foreign languages department. On my suggestion, Shanxue chose the radio electronics department, which merged into the computer science and technology department that same year. College life was completely different from before. I cut out all pointless socializing and devoted every minute to my studies. Standing on the shoulders of history, I dared not waste a single moment. Yet, I never expected to run into Yi Jianbai again one afternoon while studying in the library. By then, he had already taken over his father's position at the dyeing and printing mill. He said he'd tried to find me several times and had been following me for days. He'd cleaned himself up and came to talk things out with me. I admit I was a bit immature before. I've been working this past year and I've made some money. Let me take you out to dinner, Xiangxiang. I've also been studying for the entrance exam. I'll get into Peking University next year. I know it. He adopted a humble tone. As for that Su Yimin, I only ever saw her as a little sister. Please don't misunderstand. My mom heard you got into university. She came to see you the other day, and she really admires you. She said she's decided you'll be her daughter-in-law. A faint smile played on his lips, and there was a barely perceptible note of pleading in his tone. In his hand, a string bag held the gifts I had given him before. See, I've kept all these things. What happened with Su Yimin before, that was all arranged by our families. We were forced into it. After all the years we spent together in the countryside. Xiangxiang, don't you know what kind of man I am? My eyebrow twitched. I called out to the class monitor who was passing by, reaching out to lightly hook my arm through theirs. Yi Jianba. I forgot to introduce you. This is my partner. Yi Jianba froze for a moment, utterly incredulous. Your partner? You have a partner? You're studying and going to class every single day. When would you even have time to find a partner? Did you two get together a long time ago? His fingers tightened. Are you trying to provoke me on purpose? You'd even ruin your own reputation just to get a rise out of me. A woman being with one man, then another. Let go. Impossible. I will never let you go again. After returning to the city, I realized we're the best match. I finally understood all you did for me. Have you forgotten, Xian? You were afraid I'd get sick, getting up in the dead of winter nights to heat the Kong for me. You'd hide the precious lard you saved at the bottom of my bowl. You even collected the scrap paper I threw away and made it into practice sheets for calligraphy. Students began to gather around. I shook off his hand. Show some respect. Yi Jianba, your fiancé is here. Are you really going to act like a creep? He froze for a moment, then let go. Before Su Yimin could even let out a sob, the security guards arrived. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. How shameless, he's already engaged, yet he's still pestering someone else. It's his own fault, but he's blaming the woman. I think the guy she chose is far better than him, a perfect match. They're truly meant for each other. Yi Jianba's face turned ashen, and he shot a venomous glare at Su Yimin. What are you doing here? The two of them quickly launched into an argument right then and there. The class monitor glanced at me. Classmate Chi, the teacher wants us to go move the books. There was never any book to begin with. Rounding the bushes, the class monitor asked, don't worry, it's all over. Do you need me to go and have another word with security? That guy won't give up until he's hit a brick wall. He'll never back down until he sees I'm truly in love with someone else. His face flushed slightly. I let go. Thanks, monitor. I'll go report to the teacher first, so we don't cause any trouble for the school. With the teacher's support, the rumors about Yi Jianba were completely quashed before they could even spread. On one occasion, he tried to pose as a gardener and a vegetable delivery man, but the security guard stopped him before he even reached the gate. After that, I didn't see Yi Jianbai for a long time, naturally. He wasn't among the new students the following year either. Shanxue did run into him once, though, out and about. He told Shanxue I was nothing special, and that he'd find a girl 1,000 times prettier than me. He was obsessed with his appearance. He broke up with Su Yimin for good. I remembered in a past life, he brought Su Yimin back to revisit the old place, and the blemishes on her face had almost completely faded. In his conversations, it was also clear that Su Yimin's family had given him a great deal of support. In this life, it seems he has completely changed the course of his destiny. Looking back at the convergence of our life paths, it's as if I'm reclaiming the script that was originally meant for him. I dare not squander this gift from fate. I just cut out the newspaper articles one by one. After graduating, I didn't choose to become a journalist, nor did I consider opportunities abroad. Instead, I chose to go to Shenzhen. When Yi Jianbai heard the news back in our hometown, he made an excuse about attending a temple fair and came to stay for a few days, waiting for me. A country bumpkin will always be a country bumpkin. You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. I really thought you were going to become a big-shot journalist. Who knew you'd end up in some godforsaken backwater? He was riding a brand new Phoenix bicycle, with a cheerful girl sitting on the back. I knew that girl. She was from the next town over. Her family had 7 daughters and 1 son. She wasn't quite right in the head, kept to herself, and word was her intelligence had been affected by nearly drowning at birth. But she was stunningly beautiful, a famous local beauty known for miles around, with rosy lips and pearly white teeth. She looked a lot like Teresa Ting. Yi Jianba stared at me. You're good-looking, sure, but not the best-looking one around. I walked straight past him. He put down his bike and chased after me. Qi Guixiang, how long are you going to keep this up? You know what? I just went to your house, and it's in an uproar. When they found out you picked such a remote place, your parents said it'd be better if you didn't go to university at all. Better if you'd just been with me from the start. It's obvious he added this last part himself. Seeing me pause my steps, his voice softened. Xiang, to be honest with you, I haven't married all these 4 years. I've been waiting for you. I dream of you every night, dream of us sleeping together. We had real feelings. I don't believe you feel nothing for me. Are you really holding a grudge to this extent? Just because I wavered for my family's sake back then, gave Su Yimin a gift, and said a few extra words to her. I yanked my hand away from his grasp. I thought I made myself perfectly clear. Yi Jianba shook his head. I already asked around. That class monitor of yours isn't your boyfriend. I gave a light chuckle. Just because he wasn't before, doesn't mean he can't be. He grabbed my hand. Xiang, what will it take for you to turn the page? Do you want me to get down on my knees? I reached out, took hold of his fingers, and pried them open one by one. We never even had a beginning. What turning the page are you talking about? His voice was completely panicked. If it's because of her, I'll send her back right now. I sent her home on purpose, just to show you. I gave a light laugh, not interested. And by the way, I wish you a long and happy marriage, with many children soon. He snapped, losing control. Qi Guixiang, you'll pay for your stubbornness and pride. You'll regret this. Just you wait. I have a wedding apartment ready in Hadian district. I've saved up a good sum. I have a Beijing hukou. I have a stable job I can pass on, oh, I said, and strode off towards home, in my second year in Shenzhen. Yi Jianba got married. Rumor had it he was forced into a shotgun wedding after his naive, sweet-natured wife got pregnant, but after having the baby, she seemed to become even more foolish, constantly making a fuss at home and carting everything she could back to her parents' house. I didn't hear from him again until 7 years later. By then, I had started my own factory and it was running smoothly, with the profits and earnings from that year, aside from expanding production capacity. I chose to return to my hometown to build roads. That day, just like the day he came to deliver the good news, Limpy was the first to arrive at my house. Shan Qiwei had gone on to graduate school, become a university lecturer, and was now leading her students in research on network infrastructure. As she stood waiting for me in the courtyard, the lame man who had tormented her in her past life didn't dare to even glance her way. My heart softened. I gave her a hug and handed out little gifts to my niece and nephew. My brother has aged, and so have my parents. They stared in astonishment at the car I had parked outside. Wow, did you drive this, Auntie? My niece asked. Study hard. When you grow up, I'll teach you. My brother immediately chimed in. You hear that? Study hard. Your brother isn't doing well in school, so it's all on you now. Be like your aunt when you grow up. Outside, a little boy was peeking in curiously. And then a woman with a loud voice started complaining. They were asking why the road didn't go past their house. I only found out when I asked. The plan for the first asphalt road was to connect the town and the village, probably because everyone knew about the bad blood between Yi Jianba and me. They deliberately routed it away from his wife's family's property this time. They were here to make trouble. He even brought Yi Jianbai along. Tell him to apologize to me, flushed with shame and anger. Yi Jianbai stormed out, slamming the door behind him. That's when his mother-in-law finally showed up at his door with his son in tow. After hearing the whole story, I exchanged a few polite words with the village chief, got hold of the blueprint, and added that sum to the plan. The reason I'm fixing this road is because my parents had an accident here. Their vehicle overturned in '93. In this life, with a chance to make a change, I hope no such tragedy ever happens again. Seeing my agreement, the woman, overcome with emotion, held the little boy still. Come on, she said, kowtow to your aunt and thank her. The villagers helped them to their feet. They left, expressing their profound gratitude over and over. As I drove back, a figure slowly emerged from behind the trees in my rearview mirror. It's Yi Jianba. It's only been about a decade, but he's aged so much. His hair is already half gray. He stood there behind me for a long time. After a moment, he bent down, picked up a stone, and hurled it furiously at the ground. Bitter resentment, frustrated rage. I returned to our alma mater with Shan Qiwei and paid a visit to our old teacher. Revisiting the old place, Shan Qiwei reached out and gave my hand a gentle squeeze. Back then, I had feelings for your brother. If it had been anyone else, they probably would have tried every trick to make me stay. Thank you, Xiang. I smiled and said, if you had stayed, who would have helped me build the foreign trade website? Taking a roundabout route, I turned down 2 streets. The gatehouses and steps were of varying heights and widths, and a thin layer of moss clung to the blue brick walls. My eyes immediately landed on a for sale notice. I walked over and tore it down. It was for the Yi Jianbai residence. Just a quick inquiry at the door revealed the whole story. Yi Jianba's family had taken in a wife who wasn't quite right in the head. Fights broke out constantly. The girl was stunningly beautiful, but her strength was equally astonishing. She hoarded all the food in the house for herself, and if her mother-in-law tried to snatch even a little, she'd pin her down and beat her in the courtyard. Her mother-in-law couldn't take it anymore and demanded that Yi Jianba take his wife and move out. Yi Jianba, who had just come home to vent his own frustrations, decided he would just sell the house. He said he wanted to start a factory too, to be an entrepreneur, that he'd been held back. The auntie tooted that Yi Jianba, he's never satisfied with what he's got. I heard he was two-timing before. 1 minute chasing after some college girl, complaining that the country girl couldn't help his career and just cost him money. The next minute running back to his fiancée, only to complain she was ugly. Well, now he's got this one. Pretty and doesn't cost a dime. All they do is fight all day. Shan Qiwei tugged at me, but my heart stirred as I looked at the notice. I want to buy it. Back then, housing prices were over 1,000 yuan, but the average monthly salary at the time was only around 200. I got a middleman involved and bought it for 1,500 per square meter. Shan Qiwei frowned and asked me why I was helping him. This isn't about helping him, it's about helping ourselves. When heaven offers a gift, refusing it invites disaster. If you turn down what fate gives you, aren't you just slapping heaven in the face? I advised Shan Qiwei not to overthink it. With money in hand, buying a house should be the first priority. Apart from the property, I continued to invest in her online venture. It evolved from a simple chat room into full-fledged website development. In the hustle and bustle, I suddenly found myself past the age of 30, having had a couple of lukewarm relationships. In the blink of an eye, we parted ways again. I ran into my old class monitor again. He had done well for himself in his career. When we met and shook hands, a smile spread across his face. I thought it was you from a distance. But I couldn't believe it was really you. He took 2 days off to stay a little longer. A lot has changed over the past decade. He got married, and then divorced. He showed me a photo of his ex-wife. At first glance, I was taken aback. She bore a striking resemblance to me. He said, when we graduated, I thought you'd stay in Beijing, especially since the newspaper offered you a position. I never expected you to leave so decisively. Later, I considered moving to Shenzhen too. But my whole family is in Beijing, and I'm their only son. He fell silent for a moment, then raised his glass, swirling the wine and watching it coat the sides. I've always regretted not holding on a little longer back then. After that, I threw myself into my work. I wouldn't say I've made it big, but I've achieved a fair bit. He looked at me. I looked at him. He raised his glass for a toast. Yeah, me too. On the third day, he had no choice but to return. Before he left, he asked me, have you thought about coming back with me? I smiled and said, no, I like it here. It feels like a fresh start. He looked at me one last time, paused for a few seconds, and nodded. Can I have a hug? For old time's sake, goodbye. Another few years passed in the blink of an eye, and I could clearly feel my health beginning to decline. The vision in one of my eyes started to weaken as well. In my previous life, this is how I departed. In this life, will it end the same way? While visiting the mountain temple during spring, a lay practitioner stopped me for a fortune-telling. The divination stick I drew was broken in half. The white-haired practitioner studied the broken stick for a long while. In the end, he left me with this piece of advice. Doing good deeds accumulates merit, but you must no longer interfere with unknown destinies, for the workings of heaven must not be revealed, and I've revealed far too much of the divine plan, so. Is this why I've fallen ill so much earlier in this lifetime? The Hope Primary School was built in my hometown. When I returned, my parents had stopped pressuring me to get married. They began to relax their boundaries. You don't have to get married, but having a child would be fine too. I said, I had a child once. I don't want any more children. In my past life, whenever I thought of that child who died before turning 10, a dull ache would start in my chest. My niece studies very diligently and has consistently ranked at the top of her class in high school. It's a world away from the fate of dropping out of school in her previous life. Even my nephew, driven by his father's relentless emphasis on studying hard, ended up attending a technical secondary school. I had a suitable new apartment ready for them in Beijing. To my surprise, I ran into Yi Jianbai again while buying the apartment. He had aged considerably and was starting to go bald. He came to stop his younger brother from buying a house. These housing prices are bound to drop sooner or later. 4,500 now. A few years ago it was only 1,200. Isn't this a total rip-off? His younger brother fumed. You just want the money for your own business venture. Stop sugarcoating it. This share was left to me by our parents. Don't go for a materialistic woman. Since when does marriage require a house? With your Beijing household registration, you think you won't find a wife. Back in my day, girls were practically lining up to chase after me. His younger brother finally agreed. I went ahead and paid for the order in full, and for good measure. I bought the set they were arguing about too. Adjusting my sunglasses, I walked out slowly in my high heels, my young secretary following closely behind, carrying my bag. Yi Jianba turned to look at me, his expression complicated, but he didn't dare to actually ask me anything. I got in the car and saw him come running out. He just stood there, dazed, in the doorway. By 1999, my health had already deteriorated badly. Sometimes when I slept, I'd fall into such a deep slumber I couldn't wake up. All personal regrets from my past life have been resolved. The economy is soaring, and wealth has become a tangible set of numbers. And these numbers can help more real, tangible people. I traveled to the mountains, visited mines, and spent time in hospitals, as everything grew increasingly hazy and indistinct. I chose a remote island to spend my final days, yet, I never expected to run into Yi Jianbai at the departure airport. Of all places, he was there with his wife and son, laden with all their luggage. He flinched at the sight of my pale face, nearly turning to run. He kept pestering me with questions before, so I told my niece and nephew to say I was dead if he asked again. I guess that really spooked him. He realized I was still the same person. He straightened his collar and asked where I was headed. Upon hearing I was going on a trip to an island, he seemed a bit dismissive. He said he had sold all his family's property and assets and was preparing to emigrate, though not yet 40. His hair had turned completely white and his complexion was sallow. Travel. You can't really experience a foreign country in just a day or two. You need to live there. We're planning to immigrate. I asked, where to? To the country with the most potential. He lifted his chin with a hint of pride. Mexico. Good luck with that. What's with that look? You don't get it, do you? You can get to the States through Mexico. He noticed I wasn't carrying a single bag. I heard you never got married. I'm in Mexico now, and I'll be able to cross into the States in 2 years. Tops. I can bring family with me then. You might be starting to regret it now. Huh. I crooked a finger, beckoning him closer. He lowered his head. I slapped him hard across the face. He was stunned. You dare hit me. The bodyguards on either side immediately stepped forward. I looked at him. You deserved that slap. He covered his face, seething with rage. Just you wait. When I make it to New York someday, a country bumpkin like you will be green with envy. My parents had some free time to go on vacation with me. Dad learned how to swim. Mom learned how to take pictures. Lying on the beach, the sea breeze was damp. Life these days feels like a dream, Mom said. She said she thought Yi Jianba was the best choice back then, and was secretly upset I didn't seize the opportunity. Later, when she heard I was taking the college entrance exam, she thought I was just fooling around. She never expected I would actually get in, and then, in a stroke of genius after getting accepted, I chose to go to Shenzhen. I never imagined I'd end up never marrying at all. At first, she was quite upset for me. Worried about what people might say. Looking back now, why can't a woman live her whole life this way? Having children is wonderful, but not having them is perfectly fine too. I smiled. She reached over and tucked the thin blanket around me. Xiang, it's like you know everything. Back when you took that exam, you scored over 300 points, but before that, you'd only ever been to junior high. Mom really feels like heaven itself was helping you. I laughed and said, maybe I really do know. I handed her the black card and the documents. This is a separate pension fund for her. As children grow up, they often favor their mother over their father. During the new year, I helped my youngest uncle slaughter the hog for the festivities. We gathered the bristles to make brushes and traded them for half a jar of lard. Lu Shanxue founded the Cape community, and it became an instant hit. As the primary investor, I requested a super administrator account. Lu Shanxue asked, is that all? I smiled with a cough. That's all. My only condition is that you keep this community running for another 10 years, even if it operates at a loss. She gave me a hug. Okay. As the year 2000 approached, rumors of the apocalypse were swirling. For the first time, I used the super administrator account in this thriving community. 2 messages were pinned and pushed to all users. The first one, September 11th, 2001, the World Trade Center Twin Towers in New York, attack. My fingers grew heavier and heavier, making it almost impossible to type any further. Blood began to trickle slowly from my nose. One of my eyes started to blur. In the mirror, I saw my reflection on the screen, my hair now completely white. I managed to type out this message, but it probably hasn't altered fate much or revealed any great cosmic secrets. After all, there are thousands of doomsday prophecies. However, once the first point is confirmed, the second point, it will become widely known and spread. 1428, May 12, 2008, on the ground, with a crackle from the keyboard. There was no time left to finish. At the very last moment, I clicked send. Story 2. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. I jolted upright in bed, my forehead slick with cold sweat. Outside, the sky was just beginning to lighten. A sliver of grayish-white light slipped through the gap in the curtains and fell on the red appointment booklet on the nightstand, the one Lu Jingxian and I had picked up from the Civil Affairs Bureau just yesterday. Tomorrow was the day we were scheduled to register our marriage. My hand trembled as I reached under the pillow for my phone. The moment the screen lit up, the date hit me like a sledgehammer. Specific date. It was really the day before our registration. This wasn't a dream. I bit down hard on my lip until I tasted the faint metallic tang of blood, forcing back the sob rising in my throat. As my fingers brushed the phone screen, the suffocating dread of the days to come still lingered deep in my bones. But now I had a chance to choose differently, and my first thought was of the money. It was the savings I'd scraped together since graduation, pinching every penny, never daring to buy a dress that cost more than 300 yuan, depositing it bit by bit. It was meant for a down payment after marriage, for a little home of our own. But in my past life, that money ended up as Lu Jingxian's bargaining chip to win Song Qinglan's favor. I couldn't let history repeat itself. I threw off the covers, not even bothering to properly put on my shoes. Barefoot, I rushed to the wardrobe, hastily pulling on a jacket and jeans. My fingers scrambled through the drawer until they found the bank card hidden in a sock. This was my payroll card. Holding all my savings, the pin was my birthday, something Lu Jingshan didn't know. Grabbing my wallet and phone, I stumbled out of the apartment. The motion sensor light in the hallway flickered on with my footsteps, its dim yellow glow casting my frantic shadow on the walls. I nearly missed a step on the stairs. My palm went numb from gripping the railing too tightly, but I barely noticed. The breakfast stall at the entrance to our complex was already steaming. A few early-rising seniors strolling leisurely. I had no mind for any of it. I flagged down a passing taxi and blurted out, "Driver, to the nearest China Construction Bank, please, hurry." The driver grunted in acknowledgement and stepped on the gas, the car lurching forward. In the back seat, I clutched the bank card so tightly my palms were soaked. One thought hammered in my mind, asterisk faster, go faster. Asterisk I had to move all the money before Lu Jingshan woke up. I didn't know if he was awake yet. Or if he'd try to contact me. We'd spoken on the phone just last night. He said he'd get up early today to buy my favorite soy milk and fried dough sticks, and then we'd wait together for the Civil Affairs Bureau to open. Back then, I was still wrapped in the joy of our impending marriage, trusting his every word. Now, those sweet promises felt like shards of glass, piercing my heart. 20 minutes later, the taxi pulled up outside the China Construction Bank. The bank had just opened, and there were only a few people inside. I rushed in, went straight to the counter, and said to the teller, "Hello, I need to transfer all the money from this card to another one. Please do it as quickly as possible." I produced the other bank card I had prepared long ago, the one I opened in university, never used and known only to me. The teller verified my ID and asked me to enter my PIN. My fingers trembled slightly, but I keyed in the numbers correctly. "Ma'am, the transfer amount is 173,562 yuan. Is that correct?" the teller asked, looking up at me. "Yes, transfer it all, every last cent," I said with unwavering resolve, watching the balance on the screen dwindle bit by bit until it finally hit zero. A large part of the weight in my heart finally lifted. The teller printed the transfer receipt. Without even glancing at it, I folded it up, tucked it into my wallet, turned, and walked out. Stepping out of the bank, the sun had risen, its golden rays warm on my skin, yet I felt a chill run through my entire body. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I took it out and saw a WeChat message from Lu Jingshan. "Ting Xue, are you awake? I'm buying breakfast now. I'll be at your building in 10 minutes. I stared at the message, my fingertips turning icy cold. In my past life, at this very moment, I would have been happily packing my things, waiting for him to pick me up. But now, I just wanted to get as far away from him as possible. I didn't reply. I simply switched my phone to silent, shoved it into my bag, hailed another taxi, and gave the driver the address for the train station. "Lu Jingshan, it's over between us, completely, from today onward. If you want to buy a house for your first love, if you want your comfortable life, then figure it out yourself. This time, I won't be foolish enough to hand over everything I have on a silver platter." As the car headed towards the train station, I looked back at the city I'd lived in for over 20 years, my gaze resolute. Goodbye, the Shenting Xue of the past. Goodbye, Lu Jingshan. When the taxi stopped at the side gate of my apartment complex, I had specifically asked the driver to take a detour to confirm Lu Jingshan's car wasn't parked downstairs before I dared to get out. He said he'd be here in 10 minutes. He was probably still stuck in the morning rush hour traffic. I had to make the most of this limited time. My heart hammered against my ribs as I burst into the stairwell, fumbling with the keys. My trembling fingers took 2 tries to unlock the door. The apartment was exactly as I'd left it last night. My wedding dress from yesterday draped over the sofa, the pale pink lace a dizzying sight. I didn't spare it a glance. Heading straight for the bedroom to pack, no time to waste. I needed to travel light. I yanked open the wardrobe, grabbed just 2 changes of clothes and stuffed them into my canvas bag. From the very bottom of a drawer, I retrieved my ID card, household register, and the 2 bank cards I'd just finished transferring money to, tucking them securely into an inner pocket. Makeup, jewelry, all those non-essentials, I left untouched. In my past life, I'd been weighed down by such traces of a settled existence. This time, I was leaving all that baggage behind. Before I could even zip the canvas bag shut, my phone started buzzing frantically. The screen lit up with the name Lu Jingshan. I hesitated for 2 seconds, then hit decline. Instantly, his WeChat messages flooded in. "Ting Xue, why aren't you answering? I'm downstairs. I don't see you. Are you not home? Where did you go? Breakfast is getting cold. Reply to me, now." The 3 messages popped up in quick succession, their urgency radiating his typical need for control. I took a deep breath and typed out a lie directly on the screen. I'm so sorry, my grandmother's taken a critical turn, my mom just called me in tears. I'm already on my way to the train station to go back to my hometown. I didn't overthink the excuse. Her place was in the neighboring province, close enough to be plausible, far enough to keep him guessing. To sell it, I added, it's all happened so fast, I didn't have time to explain. I'll contact you once I've dealt with things here. We might have to postpone getting our marriage license for a few days. The moment I hit send, I deleted the entire chat history. It wasn't about him finding out. I just couldn't bear to see his name anymore. With that done, I gave the rental I'd called home for 3 years one final, utterly indifferent glance, turned, shut the door, and tossed the keys straight into the hallway trash bin. When I reached the train station again, the ticket hall was already busy. I made a beeline for the self-service kiosk, my fingers flying across the screen to filter for the fastest southbound trains. My eyes landed on a high-speed rail departing at noon, final destination Shenzhen, with only a few second-class seats left. I didn't hesitate, paid, printed the ticket, and clutched it in my hand. With 2 hours to kill, I found a seat in a corner, hugged the canvas bag to my chest as if it held my entire world, and waited. My phone vibrated a few more times, still messages from Lu Jingshan. He was asking for my grandmother's exact address, saying he wanted to come with me. He even mentioned he had everything ready for the marriage registration and couldn't afford any delays. I didn't reply. Instead, I powered off my phone. Rather than spinning more lies and dancing around him, it was better to cut all contact cleanly. Better to avoid complications. I knew Lu Jingshan all too well. Once he got suspicious, he'd move heaven and earth to find me. I had to be on that southbound train before he could piece it together. The wait was excruciating, every minute and second in agony. I didn't dare move around, just kept my head down, pretending to look at my phone while staying hyper-aware of my surroundings, terrified he might suddenly appear. Only when the boarding announcement crackled over the speakers did I finally let out a breath. I followed the crowd to the ticket gate. After the attendant checked my ticket and ID, I hurried onto the platform, found my seat, and stowed my luggage. Just as I sat down, the train began to pull away. I watched through the window as the platform receded, the familiar skyline of the city blurring and then vanishing from sight. Only then did I dare to turn my phone back on. I sent Lu Jingshan one final message. Don't come, Grandma's condition isn't good. I need some time alone to process things. I'll reach out when things are more stable. After hitting send, I blocked his number and muted his notifications on WeChat. With that done, I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. The scenery outside flew past, sunlight filtered through the glass, warm on my face. I knew the road ahead was uncertain. Shenzhen was a completely unfamiliar city to me, no family, no friends. I was starting over from scratch, but I wasn't afraid. Compared to the suffocating darkness of my past life marriage, compared to a life drained away by Lu Jingshan and Song Qinglan, this unknown future was brimming with hope. The bank card and my canvas bag pressed against my side, that was my entire foundation, my security. Go ahead, Lu Jingshan. Go fawn over your first love, without my money. Without my constant concessions. Let's see just how long your so-called deep affection can last. The train sped south, carrying me toward a new life, leaving the old entanglements and betrayals far behind. The train slowly pulled away from the station, and the view outside the window grew increasingly unfamiliar. Leaning back in my seat, I had just switched my phone to airplane mode when I couldn't resist switching it back on. I wanted to see how Lu Jingshan would react once he discovered the truth. Sure enough, the moment I disabled airplane mode, my phone erupted. The missed call notifications were a solid block of Lu Jingshan's number, and there were also a few WeChat messages from our mutual friend, Li Wei. I opened Li Wei's messages first. Her tone was clearly panicked. Ting Xue, where on earth are you? Lu Jingshan is losing his mind. He just called me 3 times, and he sounded terrifying. A second message followed right after. He said your grandmother being critically ill was a lie. He also said he checked that salary card at the bank and it's completely empty. He asked me if I knew where you went, if you ran off with the money. The phrase ran off with the money almost made me laugh out loud. How did the money I worked so hard to save become running off with the money in his mouth? My finger swiped across the screen. The third message was a voice note. Li Wei's voice was hushed. Ting Xue, did you have a fight with him? Lu Jingshan said you two were supposed to get your marriage license today. He's waiting downstairs at your place right now, saying if you don't come out, he'll go to your parents. Oh, and he asked me if Song Qinglan had contacted you, wondering if you were giving him a hard time because of her. My heart sank at the mention of Song Qinglan, of course. No matter what happened, his first instinct was always to shift the blame onto someone else. or drag his first love into it. I didn't reply to Li Wei, just pinned her chat to the top for easy updates later. I had just closed WeChat when an unknown local number called. I guessed it was Lu Jingshan using someone else's phone and hit decline. Within 3 seconds, a text came through from the same number, Shenting Xue. Where the hell are you? Give me my money back. Immediately followed by another, your grandmother's critical condition was a lie, wasn't it? Did you plan this scam all along? Did you run off with someone else? The final message was laced with threat. Let me tell you, you can't run. I still have your household registration booklet. If you don't come back to get the license with me, if you don't return my money, I'll make a scene at your office, at your home. I'll let everyone know you're a woman who swindles money and runs. Reading those hysterical words, I just felt sick. In my past life, I was blinded by his facade of devotion, that personality so deeply selfish at its core. He always believed everything I had should be his. My money, my time, my efforts were all just his due. I didn't reply. I blocked the number directly, then opened my banking app. Only after confirming the transferred funds had safely arrived did I finally feel at ease. Not long after, Li Wei sent another message, this time a video. In it, Lu Jingshan was standing below my apartment building, hair a mess, phone clenched in his hand, yelling into it, his face ashen like he wanted to kill someone. A few curious neighbors had gathered, but he paid them no mind, still roaring, Shenting Xue, get out here. Where did you hide the money? You think you can get away? At the end of the video, Li Wei added a note, he just went to the bank, probably to try and freeze your account. The staff told him the money was already transferred. He almost started a fight right there, accusing the bank of helping you hide marital assets, made a huge scene. Marital assets, I couldn't help a scornful laugh. We weren't even married yet, that money was my personal premarital savings. It had nothing to do with Lu Jingshan. His panic now was simple, without my money, he couldn't buy Song Qinglan an apartment, couldn't play the big spender for his first love. I could picture him perfectly. His plan was to get the license today. Use my money for Song Qinglan's down payment tomorrow, then sweet-talk me into moving to the countryside to care for his paralyzed mother. He'd stay in the city, enjoying the conveniences of marriage while keeping ties with his old flame. But now his little fantasy was shattered. The money was gone, I was gone. No wonder he was falling apart. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a WeChat message from my mom, Ting Xue. Lu Jingshan just called me saying your grandmother is critically ill and you've gone back to our hometown. Why didn't you tell me? Grandma is perfectly fine. Where are you? Really? A wave of warmth washed over me, and I quickly replied, Mom, I'm fine. I just wanted to get away for a bit to clear my head. Don't worry about Lu Jingshan. He and I aren't right for each other, and I don't plan on registering the marriage with him. I'll call you once I'm settled, I promise. Mom didn't press further, simply replying, take good care of yourself. If anything comes up, talk to us anytime. Reading her message, my eyes grew a little hot. In my past life, I'd fought bitterly with my family over Lu Jingshan, only realizing how precious they were when I was utterly alone and abandoned. This time, I won't let them worry about me anymore. The train had crossed into the neighboring province. Outside the window, the vegetation grew increasingly lush, and the air seemed to carry the damp scent of the south. I turned off my phone, leaned back in my seat once more, and a smile of relief touched my lips. Lu Jingshan, this is just the beginning. You want to win back your first love, don't you? Well, let's see what you can do on your own, without my money, without my sacrifices. I'm curious to see if your profound love with Song Qinglan can withstand the test of reality. As the high-speed train pulled into Shenzhen North Station, the sky outside had already darkened. The moment the carriage announcement called out the station name, I grabbed my canvas tote and stood up. Feeling the bank card tucked inside the inner pocket brought me a sense of calm. Stepping out of the exit, a wave of humid, warm evening air hit me, carrying the unfamiliar scent of plants and earth, so different from the dry northern winds. Before me was a dense sea of people, women dragging suitcases, drivers holding up name signs, vendors hawking snacks, neon signs flickered in the night, and a tide of noise washed over me, leaving me momentarily dazed. This was it, the place where I would start over, a city with no Lu Jingshan, no Song Qinglan, just me. I didn't linger. Following the signs, I found the subway entrance. Before my trip, I'd looked it up on my phone. Shenzhen's urban villages had relatively cheap rent and convenient transportation, perfect for someone like me who needed to get a foothold quickly in a new city. I'd chosen Baishizu, not too far from the city center. Following the navigation, I transferred subway lines twice. By the time I walked out of the subway station, it was already past 8 in the evening. The alleyways of the urban village crisscrossed like a maze, flanked by buildings so close together the locals called them handshake buildings. Under the dim glow of streetlights, The walls were plastered with rental ads, a dizzying blur of phone numbers. I didn't dare call any number at random. Instead, I walked slowly down the lane, keeping an eye out for storefronts with signs that read "Direct from Landlord." After about 10 minutes, I finally spotted a lit-up rental agency. Pushing the door open, a middle-aged man in a short-sleeved shirt looked up, looking for a place. "Miss, yes, a single room. Something affordable, and preferably available immediately," I said. Cutting straight to the point, not wanting to waste time, he gave me a once-over, pulled a set of keys from a drawer, and said, "Just happen to have a vacancy, 3rd floor, private bathroom, 200 a month, 1 month's rent as deposit. Want to take a look?" The price was even lower than I'd expected. I nodded immediately. "Let's see it." Following the man upstairs, the stairwell was dim and carried a faint scent of cooking oil. The room wasn't big, about 15 square meters. A single bed was pushed against the wall, and the window faced the alley. The view wasn't great, but the ventilation was decent. Most importantly, the place was reasonably clean, ready to move into without extra cleaning. "I'll take it," I said without much hesitation, paying the deposit and first month's rent on the spot. As he handed me the keys, the man passed me a slip of paper. "The instructions for paying utilities are on here. Let me know if you have any problems." After seeing the agent out, I locked the door behind me, tossed my canvas bag onto the bed, and slumped down on the edge, letting out a long, deep sigh. After a whole day of running around, I finally had a temporary place to land. The room was basic, but it was stable, my first harbor in this unfamiliar city. Early the next morning, not daring to rest, I washed up and immediately opened my laptop to send out resumes. In my past life, I'd worked as a graphic designer for 5 years. Building up solid experience, that was my foundation for making it in Shenzhen. I shortlisted over a dozen mid-sized ad agencies, tailored my resume for each, organized my past project portfolios, and sent them out one by one. After submitting the applications, I went out to buy some essentials, a quilt, pillow, toiletries, and some simple kitchenware. By the time I got back to the room, my phone had already pinged with interview invitations from 3 companies. The earliest one was that very afternoon. I quickly changed into something presentable and gave my hair a quick fix in the mirror. The company was in Futian district, requiring a subway ride. Stepping into the office building, I took a deep breath and told myself, "Shenting Shui, you can do this. There's no shadow of the past here, only opportunities that belong to you." My interviewer was the head of the design department, a woman who looked sharp and capable. She flipped through my portfolio and asked a few technical questions, all of which I handled with ease. Finally, she smiled and said, "Your work shows real creativity, and your past project experience aligns perfectly with our needs. Can you come in tomorrow to complete the onboarding paperwork? The monthly salary is 8,000, with a 3-month probation period at 80% of that rate." This offer was even higher than my previous salary back home. I nodded in pleasant surprise. "Yes. Thank you, ma'am." Stepping out of the office building, the sunlight was just right, spilling onto Shenzhen's wide streets. Watching the crowds come and go, I felt, for the first time, the genuine start of a new life. Over the next few days, I split my time between getting to know the company's operations and settling into my little rented room. I installed blackout curtains on the window, bought a pot of pothos to place on the sill, and even snagged a small desk online. The room slowly began to feel lived in. My colleagues were all friendly, no one pried into my past, everyone was focused on work, and this straightforward atmosphere was a huge relief. Over the weekend, I went to the bank to open a local account, transferring most of my savings into it and keeping only a small amount of cash for emergencies. Seeing the balance in my mobile banking app gave me a deep sense of security. This was my safety net for the future and the seed money for starting my own business. I would never let anyone covet it again. Lying in bed at night, I watched the city lights outside my window, a smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. Lu Jingshan was probably still worrying about money, wasn't he? Maybe he was scrambling to scrape together a down payment for Song Qinglan's apartment. Or perhaps he was already being given the cold shoulder by her for his lack of funds. None of that had anything to do with me anymore. My focus now was on working hard, accumulating experience and wealth, putting down roots in this city, and building the life I truly wanted. Shenzhen's nights were dazzling, but my future would shine even brighter. When I got back to my apartment after work and had just put the groceries in the fridge, a message from Li Wei popped up on my phone, a long voice note. Her tone dripping with schadenfreude. "Ting Xue. You have no idea how pathetic Lu Jingshan looks right now." Li Wei's voice was hushed but brimming with excitement. "He's been acting like a madman these past few days, borrowing money everywhere. First, he asked me for 50,000 saying it was for Song Qinglan's apartment down payment. Where would I get that kind of money? I turned him down flat. Then he hit up several of our mutual friends, and guess what? Not a single person was willing to lend him a dime. You know how it is, everyone's aware of his little infatuation with Song Qinglan, who in their right mind would throw money into that bottomless pit. I leaned against the kitchen doorframe, prepping vegetables while listening to the voice message, my hands moving steadily, my heart utterly calm. He actually went back to his hometown to ask his parents for money. Li Wei's second message continued. They tore into him, saying he was throwing away a perfectly good marriage to spend money on his first love. That he must be out of his mind. His mom, who was already in poor health, got so angry she ended up in the hospital. In the end, they only gave him 20,000 yuan, and told him to hurry back and apologize to you, to win you back, 20,000. I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. In my past life, when he bought a house for Song Qinglan, he made a 200,000 yuan down payment in one go. 170,000 of that was my savings. He only contributed 30,000 himself. Now, without my money, even scraping together everything he could, he only managed 20,000, not even a fraction of a down payment. But the funniest part is yet to come. Li Wei's voice held a laugh. This afternoon, while I was out shopping, I actually saw him at a sales office for a downtown development. He was standing next to the model with Song Qinglan, clutching an envelope, probably that 20,000. Song Qinglan was pointing at a 120 square meter unit, asking him when he could pay the down payment. Guess what Lu Jingshan said? He told her to wait a little longer, that he'd have the money together soon, and promised she'd live in a big house someday. I stopped prepping the vegetables, picturing the scene, Lu Jingshan wearing his best suit, probably trying to keep up appearances in front of Song Qinglan, but the paltry sum in his hand made his embarrassment impossible to hide, and Song Qinglan, with her inherently materialistic nature, how could she possibly tolerate such a gap? Well, Song Qinglan lost it right then and there. Li Wei's voice rose a notch. She threw the brochure she was holding on the floor and said, Lu Jingshan, are you kidding me? How many times have I told you? My mom says I can't get married without a house, and now you show up with 20,000 yuan and expect me to wait. Do you know Mr. Zhang? He told me just yesterday he's willing to buy me a house outright. Mr. Zhang, that older guy in the building materials business, I asked instinctively. In my past life, Song Qinglan did end up with a wealthy older man later. I just didn't expect the signs to show up this soon. Yes, that's the one, Li Wei replied immediately. When Song Qinglan said that, a lot of people were watching. Lu Jingshan's face turned beet red, like a boiled lobster. He tried to grab her hand, saying, Qinglan, my feelings for you are real. Just give me a little more time, I will get the money. But Song Qinglan yanked her hand away and said with disgust, don't touch me. If you don't have what it takes, don't try to chase women. You think you can fob me off with 20,000 yuan. Take a good look at yourself. The voice message paused briefly, followed by Li Wei's barely contained laughter. You should have seen Lu Jingshan. He just stood there, completely flustered, his face alternating between red and white, looking like he wished the ground would swallow him whole. Song Qinglan turned and walked away without a second glance, even telling the sales agent nearby, what's a broke loser like him doing here looking at houses? What a waste of my time. Her tone completely dismissed him as worthless. What happened after that? I pressed, not out of concern, but to confirm just how right my choice had been. After that, Lu Jingshan just stood there by the model for the longest time, the envelope crumpled in his fist. Li Wei's tone leveled out. I thought about going over to say hello, but he looked so utterly pathetic I didn't dare. Oh, and he just posted on his social media. He deleted and reposted a few times, but finally settled on my sincere heart was misplaced, probably blaming Song Qinglan, I guess. I opened WeChat and navigated to Lu Jingshan's moments. Even though I had blocked him, I could still see his posts through mutual friends. Sure enough, there it was. The post titled, My Sincere Feelings Were Wasted. A few friends who didn't know the whole story had left comforting comments below. I let out a cold laugh and closed the page. Wasted feelings. What he wasted wasn't Song Qinglan, but his own greed and selfishness. He thought money alone could keep his first love, and that my obedience meant he could control me. But he forgot, Song Qinglan never loved him, only the material comforts he could provide. And I'm no longer the Shen Tingxue from my past life, the one who endured everything and let others walk all over me. The bok choy in my hands was already trimmed, its emerald leaves vibrant and fresh. I placed the vegetables in the sink to rinse them. The water gushed out. It sounded like it was washing away the gloom of the past. Lu Jingshan, this is the outcome you wanted. You tried to win over your first love, but without my money backing you up. You're not even worthy of a second glance from her. The devotion you thought you had shatters in the face of money. The control you imagined you held over me crumbled the moment I chose to walk away. For dinner, I made a simple bowl of bok choy noodles with a poached egg, plain but comforting. Sitting at my small desk, looking out at the lights of the urban village, I suddenly felt an immense sense of peace. Compared to Lu Jingshan's pitiful state, my life now, though modest, is brimming with hope. My phone vibrated again, a message from a colleague asking if I wanted to join them for yum cha tomorrow. I replied with a smile, sure. My heart was full of anticipation for the future. The whole drama with Lu Jingshan and Song Qinglan is just a minor episode in my new life. Their fate is already sealed, while I'm only moving towards something better. The morning spent having yum cha with colleagues was particularly pleasant. The tea house was bustling, the air thick with the savory aroma of har gao and the rich scent of pu'er tea. Sister Lin picked up a siumai with her chopsticks and asked with a smile, Ting Xue, how are you settling into Shenzhen after over a month here? Don't be shy if you need any help. I took a bite of the tender chicken feet and nodded, smiling. I'm adjusting well. Thank you, Sister Lin. The company atmosphere is great. Everyone looks out for each other. And work has been really smooth. I meant it. There's no office politics in the design department. When problems arise, everyone pitches in, especially Supervisor Chen. Though she's strict, she's taught me many practical industry tricks that have saved me a lot of trouble. I had just gotten back to the office when Ms. Chen gathered a few of us from the department into the conference room, her expression serious. We have an emergency, she said. Xingjing Group, the client we've been working with, suddenly wants to revise the visual concept for their anniversary event. The original deadline was next Wednesday, but they've moved it up to this Friday. They were very clear. The initial draft is too conservative. They want us to break the mold, emphasize a youthful and tech-forward feel, and it all has to align with their brand identity. The room fell silent. Xingjing Group is a major, well-known client in our industry. They have high standards and a generous budget, but they're also notoriously demanding. The initial draft was handled by Lao Zhou, a senior designer in our department, and it took him 2 weeks of polishing just to pass the first review. Now, with a major overhaul required and only 3 days to do it, the difficulty was obvious. Lao Zhou frowned and sighed. This is way too rushed. Balancing youthfulness and tech appeal is tricky enough, and we still have to make it fit their traditional brand image. 3 days isn't enough to refine the details. The other colleagues chimed in agreement, their faces all showing the same concern. Ms. Chen looked at me. Ting Xue, you're new, but the ideas in those small project proposals you submitted showed real promise. Would you like to try getting involved with the core design this time? My heart skipped a beat. This was a challenge, but also an opportunity. In my past life, I'd spent 5 years navigating the design industry, gaining experience in blending different styles and pushing through urgent projects. I couldn't say it out loud, but that experience was ingrained in me. I'd like to give it a try, I said, meeting Ms. Chen's gaze with determination. Actually, Ms. Chen, I'd like to take the lead on revising the main visual concept. Could Lao Zhou and the team help me by handling the extended material adaptations? What do you think? Lao Zhou was taken aback for a moment, then nodded, sure. Ting Xue does have a good eye for design. Let's tackle this together. For the next 3 days, I practically lived at the office. I spent the days brainstorming with the team and the nights burning the midnight oil, refining every detail. To achieve the youthful vibe the client wanted, I ditched the traditional red and gold color scheme in favor of a gradient blue paired with neon green, eye-catching but not garish. For the tech feel, I incorporated dynamic particle effects and 3D modeling elements, giving the static posters visual impact. Throughout it all, I preserved the classic silhouette of the Xingjing Group logo to ensure we never strayed from their brand identity. In the early hours of the morning when the draft revisions were finally done, only Chen Jia and I were left in the office. I sent the proposal to the client, feeling a bit nervous, my fingers tapping unconsciously on the desk. Chen Jia handed me a cup of hot coffee. Don't worry, she said, I've looked over your proposal. It's miles ahead of the previous versions, truly stunning. And the logic flows perfectly. The client has no reason not to be satisfied. No sooner had she finished speaking than my phone rang. It was the client's point of contact. I took a deep breath and answered. A hearty laugh came through the line. Shen, the proposal is fantastic. Our boss took one look and approved this version on the spot. The gradient colors and particle effects in the main visual are exactly the feeling we wanted, youthful yet sophisticated. I can't believe you delivered such high-quality work in such a short time. After hanging up, I couldn't help but exchange a smile with Chen Jia. the exhaustion of the past few days instantly melted away. She patted my shoulder. Well done, Ting Xue, you've really outdone yourself this time. I've already spoken to the director about getting you a raise. Your skills deserve better compensation. After the company's weekly meeting on Friday afternoon, Chen Jia announced the news in front of the entire department. After review, the company has decided that Shen Tingxue, having completed 3 months of employment, will conclude her probationary period early and be officially converted to a full-time employee. Her salary will be adjusted from 8,000 to 16,000. I hope everyone will learn from Tingshua's example and dare to push boundaries in your own work. Applause filled the meeting room. Old Zhou gave me a thumbs up with a smile, and Lin Jia winked at me. I stood up and gave a slight bow. Thank you for the company's recognition, and thank you, Chen Jia, and everyone for your help. I will continue to work even harder. As I sat back down, my heart was filled with a deep sense of solidity and joy. This wasn't handed to me by anyone's charity. I earned it with my own 2 hands and my own ability. A monthly salary of 16,000 was more than double what I made back in my hometown. It was enough for me to live comfortably in Shenzhen and still save more capital for my future business. On my way home from work, I called my mom to tell her about the raise. Her voice on the other end was full of warmth and pride. Tingxue, that's wonderful. I always knew you were a capable girl. Take good care of yourself out there, and don't work too hard. Okay, I will, I promised. After hanging up, the evening breeze brushed against my cheeks, carrying the faint scent of flowers and grass. I looked up at the Shenzhen night sky. Though many stars were dimmed by the city lights, the ones that shone through were still bright. I thought of my past life, scraping by on a meager salary, pinching pennies to support Lu Jingshan and Song Qinglan's lifestyle, never daring to buy myself a new piece of clothing, only to end up with nothing. But now, I was standing firm on my own efforts. My salary had doubled, and I had earned the respect of my superiors and colleagues. This feeling of self-reliance was more reassuring than any sweet talk could ever be. Back at my rented apartment, I cooked myself a hearty dinner and opened a bottle of fruit wine as a reward. Scrolling through my phone, I saw a message from Li Wei saying that Lu Jingshan was still scrambling to borrow money everywhere, even trying to sell his car. But Song Qinglan was completely ignoring him, instead growing closer to that manager Zhang. I glanced at the message without replying, simply picking up a piece of spare rib for myself. Lu Jingshan's troubles were none of my concern. My mind was now completely occupied with plans for the future, accumulating more industry resources, saving enough capital, and when the time was right, opening my own design studio. I would work on projects I was passionate about and live as my true self. My wine glass clinked against the table with a clear, crisp sound. A toast to Shenzhen, a toast to the hard-working me, and a toast to the better days ahead. I had just walked into my rental apartment after work when my phone buzzed with a video call request from Li Wei. I answered casually, and her gossipy face immediately filled the screen, the familiar backdrop of her living room behind her. Tingxue, you have no idea how miserable Lu Jingshan is right now. Li Wei lowered her voice, her tone a mix of schadenfreude and pity. His grandparents forced him to go back to his hometown to take care of his paralyzed mother. My hand, which had just picked up a water glass, paused mid-air, and I motioned for her to continue. You know, his parents divorced ages ago, and his dad started a new family and doesn't care about this side, after his mom became paralyzed. His grandparents have been looking after her. Back when he was dating you, he kept bragging to his family, saying once you got the marriage certificate, you'd quit your job and move to the countryside to care for his mom, while he stayed in the city to earn money. That way, he could fulfill his filial duty without messing up his career. Li Wei took a sip of her milk tea and went on, but then you left. He couldn't scrape together the money. And Song Qinglan dumped him too. She's completely focused on that Mr. Zhang now. He had no face left to stay in the city, and his job was on the line because of all the time off he took and the money he borrowed. His mom was always taken care of by his grandparents, but now they've had enough. Li Wei's voice rose a notch. Last weekend when he went back home, his grandpa whacked his leg with a cane, called him an unfilial son. Said he threw away a perfectly good wife to chase after some trashy woman. Now he's broke, she's gone, and he's still causing trouble for the family. His grandma was crying beside him too, saying taking care of his mom is exhausting. They're too old for this, and he has to go back home to do his duty, or they'd cut ties with him. I could picture the scene. Lu Jingshan, spoiled rotten by his grandparents since he was a kid. When had he ever been treated like this? He always thought taking care of a paralyzed parent was a woman's job. My job. Now that it's his turn, he must be completely out of his depth. I bet he's refusing, right? I asked. Refusing? Of course he is, Li Wei rolled her eyes. At first, he argued with his grandparents, saying his career and future were in the city, and going back to the countryside would ruin everything. Then his grandpa said, if you don't come back, I'll bring your mother to the city and drop her off at your office door. Let's see how you like that embarrassment. That scared him straight. He's really back in his hometown taking care of her now. Really? I was surprised. Really? Li Wei nodded. My cousin lives in the same village. She sent me a photo yesterday. Look, this is what he looks like now. She held her phone closer. On the screen was a picture of Lu Jingshan wearing a faded old t-shirt, his hair a mess, with heavy dark circles under his eyes. He was squatting in a muddy yard, washing a bedsheet that had faint stains on it. Firewood was piled nearby, and in the background stood a dilapidated brick house. He was a far cry from the polished city guy he used to be. My cousin says he's at home every day now, waiting on his mother hand and foot, feeding her, bathing her, dealing with all the mess. He has to do everything, Li Wei added. Sometimes his mom gets confused and will scratch him or curse at him. He lost his temper at first, but after his grandpa yelled at him, he just had to suck it up. And the countryside is rough. No food delivery, no packages, not even any entertainment at night. He's been complaining on social media every day, saying life feels like a prison sentence. What about Song Qinglan? Has she contacted him? Contact him, as if. Li Wei snorted with contempt. My cousin said he tried messaging Song Qinglan on the sly, telling her he'd come find her in the city once he sorted out his family stuff. She blocked him immediately. Later, he used someone else's account to add her. She accepted, then straight up called him a loser. She said, you can't even support yourself now, and you still think you can be with me. Just stay in the countryside and look after your mother. Then she blocked him again. I remained silent, my heart a placid lake. The hardship Lu Jingshan is enduring now is merely a fraction of the suffering he inflicted upon me in our past life. In that life, I was the one in that old country house, day in and day out, caring for his paralyzed mother, enduring loneliness and bone-deep exhaustion. Meanwhile, he was in the city, whining and dining Song Qinglan, wooing her with money that was rightfully mine. What he's experiencing now is but a 10,000th of the torment I endured, and it gets better. Li Wei's voice chimed in again. He tried to hire a caregiver, but when he asked, the price was 4,000 a month. He's jobless now, and the little money from selling his car, he really did sell that runabout for 30,000, has to be saved for his mother's medicine. He simply can't afford it. He asked his father for help, but his father said, you didn't listen to me. Insisted on getting tangled up with that woman. Now you're reaping what you sowed, and didn't give him a single cent. So now he's utterly helpless, with nowhere to turn. Exactly, Li Wei nodded. My cousin says he sighs all day now, sometimes just sitting in the yard staring blankly towards the city, probably full of regrets. But what good is regret? You're long gone. Song Qinglan is with someone else, and he's stuck in the countryside tending to his mother. He might never climb out of this hole in this lifetime. After ending the video call, I walked to the window and watched the endless stream of traffic below. Shenzhen's night was as vibrant as ever, the streetlights stretching like a long river of stars, illuminating the road ahead. I remembered my days in the countryside in that past life, rising before dawn to cook, then bathing and feeding Lu Jingshan's mother, dealing with her bodily functions, followed by work in the fields, and ending the day with laundry and more cooking, collapsing into bed each night utterly spent. Lu Jingshan would only come home once a month, each time bossing me around, criticizing my care, complaining the house was dirty, then taking the pocket money I'd secretly saved back to the city to buy gifts for Song Qinglan. Back then, I foolishly believed that if I just gave enough, he would eventually see my worth. Now I understand. Some people, you can never warm their heart, and now, Lu Jingshan is finally tasting that same despair and helplessness. What he took for granted was someone else's heavy burden, unwilling to give for me, unwilling to shoulder responsibility, only wanting ready-made comforts. In the end, he has only himself to blame. I pulled my gaze back, opened my laptop, and began organizing my preliminary business plan. Lu Jingshan's plight only solidified my resolve. Relying on myself is the only way to steer my own life. I will no longer sacrifice myself for anyone, nor will I let anyone else dictate my fate. In the kitchen, the clay pot simmered with pork rib soup, bubbling softly, its savory aroma filling my small rented apartment. This is my life now, simple yet solid, demanding yet worthwhile. Lu Jingshan, you stay in the countryside and fulfill your filial duties. That's what you owe your mother, and it's what you owe me. As for me, I'll keep moving forward, further and further down my own path. After the Xinjiang Group project wrapped up, I could clearly feel the shift in the industry's winds. Short videos and live streaming exploded seemingly overnight. More and more brands began prioritizing their online visual packaging, from account profile design to video thumbnails and live stream backgrounds, all requiring the touch of a professional design team. For me, this was the long-awaited opportunity. I had over 200,000 in savings, coupled with the client resources and industry experience I'd accumulated. The timing for starting my own business was absolutely perfect. That night, I was working late at the office, poring over industry reports. The data analytics flashing on my screen showed that the market demand for new media visual design had tripled in just 6 months, yet there were hardly any professional teams to meet it. I closed my laptop with a single, resolute thought: quit my job and start my own studio. The next morning, I went straight to Sister Chen's office and knocked on her door. She was reviewing some documents and looked up, smiling as she waved me in. "Come on in, got another brilliant idea, Sister Chen." "I'm here to resign," I said, handing her my resignation letter with firm conviction. "I want to start my own business, a new media visual design studio." She paused for a moment, took the letter, and after a quick glance, she didn't seem surprised. Instead, she smiled. "I knew you'd leave eventually. With your drive, talent, and vision, you were never meant to just work for someone else." She set the letter down. "I support you. I'll put in a word for you with Xingjing Group. Their subsidiary is just starting a short video channel and needs a design team. You should give it a shot." A wave of warmth washed over me. I hadn't expected her not only to accept my decision but to actively help pave the way. "Thank you, Sister Chen. Don't worry. If you ever need anything from me in the future, I'll do my best. No need for formalities," she said, patting my shoulder. "You're capable, you have a good eye, and you're catching this trend at the right time. You'll make it." The resignation process went smoothly, and my colleagues all came to see me off. Old Joe slipped me his business card. "If you ever get stuck on a project, call me anytime. I can lend a hand on weekends." Sister Lin chimed in with a smile. "You absolutely must let us know when your studio opens. We'll be there to show our support." The day I left the company, the sun was shining brightly. I took one last look at the office building where I'd spent the better part of a year working hard. My heart was full of gratitude, but there was no sense of longing. I knew a much broader horizon awaited me. Within a week, I had secured a location and registered the studio. I chose a spot in a creative park downtown, a modest space, about 50 square meters. I went for a minimalist industrial style, whitewashed walls, floor lamps, a few designer tables and chairs, and some potted plants to add warmth. It felt both cozy and professional. I named it Tingxua Design, which is my name. But it also carries the meaning of staying true to my original intention and doing things with purity and focus. On the first day of opening, I didn't hold any ceremony. I just invited Sister Chen, Old Joe, and Sister Lin over for a casual visit. Right after seeing them off, my phone rang. It was the head of a Xingjing Group subsidiary. "Mr. Shen, we've reviewed your previous work and are very impressed with your professionalism. We'd like to collaborate with you on the full-scope visual design for our short video account. When would be a good time to discuss the details?" This was my first order, a real stroke of good luck. I rushed to their company immediately, drawing on my precise understanding of industry trends. I proposed a visual consistency with stylistic variation strategy, ensuring the account's overall tone remained unified while giving each short video its own memorable flair. The client's representative made the decision on the spot. "Let's go with your plan. We'll sign the contract right now." The first order was for 80,000 yuan, enough to cover my rent and operating costs for the first 3 months. I didn't dare slack off. I worked late into the night alone, refining the proposal. I scrutinized every detail, from the account avatar and homepage banner to the video thumbnails, templates, and subtitle fonts. On the day of delivery, the client was full of praise after seeing the final product. "Mr. Shen, this is even better than we expected. From now on, all our company's visual design work will be done with your studio." With the endorsement from Xingjing Group, more and more clients started reaching out proactively. At first, I couldn't handle it all alone, so I hired 2 recent design graduates, one to handle execution and the other to manage client communication. I personally mentored them, sharing my experience without holding anything back. The team atmosphere kept improving, and so did our efficiency. 3 months later, the studio's order book was filled for 2 months ahead. Monthly revenue stabilized at over 150,000 yuan, with a net profit reaching 80,000. I rented a larger office, expanded the team to 5 people, and even brought on a part-time accountant. Every day was busy. But watching my studio steadily find its footing and hearing clients rave about our work gave me a sense of accomplishment I never felt as an employee. That evening, after finishing up work, I sat by the floor-to-ceiling window in the new office, watching the stream of traffic below. The studio lights were still on, a few employees were working late to meet project deadlines, the rhythmic clatter of keyboards didn't feel noisy. It felt alive, full of vitality. I opened my mobile banking app and looked at the steadily growing balance. A deep sense of security washed over me. This wasn't a gift from anyone, it was earned through my own vision, ability, and sweat. It took me just 1 year to go from a monthly salary of $8,000 to a monthly income of $80,000. From employee to studio owner, a notification from Li Wei popped up on my phone, saying Lu Jingshan's life in the countryside was getting worse. His mother's condition kept relapsing. She'd often cry and make a fuss in the middle of the night, leaving him unable to sleep properly. He'd lost a significant amount of weight, and his hair had turned noticeably gray. Song Qinglan had already gotten engaged to director Zhang, and the wedding was a lavish affair. Lu Jingshan secretly went to take a look. He came back and sat in the courtyard all night, crying and cursing himself for being blind back then. I glanced at the message and didn't reply. His regret held no meaning for me anymore. He chose his own path in life. He has no one to blame but himself. I was already walking a completely different road, with no intention of ever looking back. The coffee on the table was still steaming. I picked it up and took a sip, bitter at first, then a sweet aftertaste. The entrepreneurial journey wasn't easy. Late nights negotiating with clients, solving team issues. Every step was filled with challenges. But I relished it, because I knew every step I took now was paving the way for my own future, was me living the life I wanted to live. Outside the window, the night grew deeper, the lights in the creative park twinkled like diamonds scattered on black velvet. I opened my laptop and started planning the next phase for the studio, expanding into livestream visual design services and building our own design IP. The road ahead was long, but I was filled with confidence. Shenting Xue. Just keep charging forward, the future is full of promise. For my grandmother's 70th birthday, I booked my flight back home a week in advance. With the studio's affairs in order, I deliberately picked out a fitting off-white suit dress, paired with simple pearl earrings. It was dignified enough for the occasion, yet it complemented the presence I carried now. The day I returned home was bathed in sunshine. Just after getting off the plane, I saw my mom waiting for me at the arrival's exit. She hurried over, took my hand, her eyes slightly red. Ting Xue, you've lost a little weight, but you seem much more spirited than before. Mom, I'm busy, but I'm happy, I said with a smile, taking her bag. How's Grandma's health? She's doing great, just counting the days until you got back, Mom said as we walked. Oh, by the way, Lu Jingshan's mother's condition took a turn for the worse recently. I heard it cost a fortune. He had to mortgage his family's house and now lives with his mom in their old village home. And Song Qinglan, not long after her engagement to director Zhang, his company went bankrupt, leaving him buried in debt. She left him too, and now she's working all sorts of jobs to pay off what she owes. I felt no ripple of emotion, just offered a faint oh. These were the paths they chose for themselves. The endings were inevitable from the start. My grandmother's birthday banquet was held at the best hotel in our hometown. All the relatives were there, crowding around me with questions. When they found out I had opened my own studio in Shenzhen and was earning tens of thousands a month, their faces were full of envy. Ting Xue really has made something of herself. It's a good thing she didn't end up marrying that ungrateful Lu Jingshan back then. My second aunt sighed. You have no idea how pitiful Lu Jingshan is now. He came to your uncle a few days ago asking to borrow money, and your uncle sent him packing. Midway through the banquet, I got up to use the restroom. Just as I turned the corner in the hallway, I heard a server's voice dripping with impatience. Sorry, but our minimum spend here is 1,200. If you're only ordering 2 vegetable dishes, you'd be better off at the snack bar downstairs. I instinctively looked up and saw 2 familiar figures, Lu Jingshan and Song Qinglan. Lu Jingshan was wearing a faded, yellowish shirt with the cuffs rolled up, revealing wrists stained with iodine. His hair was a mess, the crow's feet at his eyes were deeper than before, and he looked utterly worn down and destitute. Song Qinglan had lost her former glamour. She wore a cheap-looking dress, her makeup was mostly smudged, she had heavy dark circles under her eyes, and she clutched a worn-out wallet tightly in her hand, her expression sour. We just want to have a meal here. What's wrong with ordering 2 dishes? Song Qinglan's voice was laced with resentment. I used to order a whole table full of dishes when I came here. That was then, this is now. The server retorted with an eye roll. If you can't afford it, don't come to a place like this. putting on airs when you're broke just ruins the atmosphere for our other customers. Lu Jingshan's face flushed crimson instantly. He reached out to pull Song Qinglan away. Qinglan, let's go, we'll eat downstairs. Go where? Song Qinglan shook off his hand, her tone sharp. This is all your fault. If you had managed to scrape together the money for my apartment back then, why would I have gone with Director Zhang? And look at us now, he's bankrupt, I'm stuck suffering with you, and we can't even afford a decent meal. I didn't expect things to turn out like this either. Lu Jingshan's voice was full of grievance and helplessness. I've already mortgaged the house. My mother is still lying in the hospital, what else can I do? As they were arguing heatedly, Song Qinglan suddenly looked up and saw me standing not far away. Her eyes widened in shock, the anger and resentment on her face morphing into astonishment, then quickly tinged with intense jealousy. Lu Jingshan followed her gaze. When he saw me, he froze completely, his eyes sweeping over me with a complex mix of emotions, from my tailored suit dress and high heels, to the expensive bag in my hand. Finally settling on my calm, composed face, his mouth opened as if he wanted to say something, but no words came out. He just instinctively took half a step back, his eyes darting away, as if desperately trying to hide his embarrassment. I had no intention of getting entangled with them. I simply gave a slight, indifferent nod in acknowledgement and turned to leave. Shenting Xue, Song Qinglan suddenly called out to me, her voice dripping with bitterness. Look at you, living the high life now. Designer clothes, a designer bag, must have married some rich husband, huh? I stopped and turned back to look at her, a faint smile curling at the corner of my mouth. I'm not married, I earned all of this myself. I opened a design studio in Shenzhen. It's not huge, but it's enough to keep me comfortable. A design studio. Lu Jingshan's head snapped up, his eyes filled with disbelief. Since when did you know how to design? I always knew how. I just never had the chance to pursue it before, I said calmly, unlike some people who always think they can rely on others, only to end up with nothing. Song Qinglan's face instantly paled, she bit her lip hard, seeming to want to retort but finding no grounds. She knew perfectly well that my design skills weren't bad back then, it was just that in my past life, for his sake, I had given up my own career. Just then, my phone rang. It was my business partner from the studio. Calling to confirm the project meeting time for next week, I answered, my tone polite yet carrying a professional certainty. Mr. Wang, I'll be waiting for you at the studio at 3 p.m. next Monday. We can go over the proposal details then. Yes, that works perfectly. After hanging up, I turned to the two people still frozen in place, my voice flat. Excuse me, I need to get back to my grandmother's birthday celebration. With that, I turned and walked away without a backward glance. From behind me came Song Qinglan's furious voice. What's so great about her? She just opened some shabby little studio. I didn't look back, but the smile on my lips deepened. True strength never needs to be flaunted. It's the natural composure and confidence that shines through in contrast. Back in the private room, the relatives were still chatting animatedly. My mother took my hand and asked quietly, I saw you talking to Lu Jingshan and Song Qinglan in the hallway just now. Just a chance encounter, I replied, taking a sip of my tea. They're not doing so well now. Serves them right. Mom sniffed. After how Lu Jingshan treated you back then, and Song Qinglan stealing him away, they're just reaping what they sowed. I smiled but didn't respond. Honestly, seeing them in such a sorry state didn't bring me the satisfaction I'd imagined. Instead, I felt a pang of pity. If Lu Jingshan had valued me and chosen a steady life back then, he wouldn't have ended up like this. If Song Qinglan hadn't been so vain and materialistic, if she'd kept her feet on the ground, she wouldn't have fallen from grace into the mud. After the birthday banquet ended, I followed my mother out of the hotel. In the distance, I could see Lu Jingshan and Song Qinglan still standing at the bottom of the hotel steps, seemingly in the middle of an argument. Lu Jingshan hung his head, looking utterly dejected, while Song Qinglan stood beside him, berating him nonstop. Spotting us, Lu Jingshan instinctively averted his gaze, and Song Qinglan fell into a sulky silence. I didn't linger, simply getting into the car with my mother. As we drove away, I glanced at them in the rearview mirror. Their figures grew smaller and smaller, eventually disappearing into the traffic. In that moment, I felt a complete sense of release. Lu Jingshan and Song Qinglan were merely passers-by in my life's journey. Their fortunes, good or bad, no longer held any sway over me. I had suffered and despaired because of them once, but now I had stepped out of that shadow and was living the life I wanted for myself. The car headed homeward. The scenery outside the window felt both familiar and strange. My hometown had changed a great deal, yet the warmth of family remained constant. Leaning back in the seat, I watched the trees flash by, my heart filled with tranquility and contentment. The past was behind me, the future lay ahead. I no longer needed to be entangled by anyone else's drama. All I needed was to focus on my own life and cherish the people by my side. That was enough. Back in Shenzhen from my hometown, my studio's business reached new heights. We secured a year-long visual collaboration with a top-tier cosmetics brand, expanded the team to 10 people, and moved into a new 200-square-meter office. The floor-to-ceiling windows framed the dazzling nightscape of Shenzhen's most bustling CBD, its lights spilling out like an overturned river of stars. I no longer needed to pull all-nighters to rush proposals. More often, I was leading team meetings, liaising with clients, and overseeing project quality in my free time. I'd meet up with Sister Lynn and the others for afternoon tea, or give my mom a video call to listen to her chatter about the little things back home. I'd occasionally ask about news from the old hometown, but I never again brought up the names Lu Jingshan or Song Qinglan on my own. I learned about their fates later, mentioned in passing by my uncle during a phone call. The money from Lu Jingshan's mortgaged house was quickly spent. His mother's illness fluctuated, requiring constant medication and hospital stays, a weight that crushed him. He found work as a laborer on a construction site, collapsing into sleep each day from exhaustion, his hands calloused and rough. The confident, spirited man he once was had vanished. After Song Qinglan broke up with director Zhang, she tried to find another wealthy man to rely on, but her reputation had already spread far and wide. No one was willing to treat her sincerely. She even went back to Lu Jingshan, thinking they could just make do together. But they ended up fighting about money every single day. Song Qinglan berated him for being useless, while Lu Jingshan resented her for initially looking down on him for being poor. It ended in a bitter parting. Song Qinglan packed her things and left the village, vanishing without a trace. My uncle said that the last time he was back home, he saw Lu Jingshan buying the cheapest instant noodles at the village store. His hair was mostly gray, his back slightly hunched. He'd duck his head and avoid anyone he recognized, a far cry from his former haughty self. Hearing this, I felt no ripple of emotion, no sense of vindication, no pity. They simply felt like two strangers with no connection to me, walking towards the endings they had chosen for themselves. My days were full and steady. I bought a small apartment near the studio, decorating it in the rustic wood style I loved, with the balcony filled with greenery. On weekends, I'd cook, read, work out, or occasionally take short trips to nearby cities. My mom sometimes visits me in Shenzhen, looking at my place and the studio. She always beams, unable to close her mouth from smiling. Ting Xue, you're doing so well now, 100 times better than if you'd stayed with Lu Jingshan. I'd nod with a smile, knowing deep down that true contentment isn't born from comparison, but from an inner sense of peace and freedom. I no longer need to watch my words around anyone, or twist myself into knots to please others. I can freely do what I love and steer my own life. That feeling brings more security than any material possession ever could. Half a year later, at an industry summit, I met Jiang Chen, the founder of a new media company. He was gentle, refined, and witty. After seeing our studio's portfolio, he expressed genuine appreciation for my design philosophy and proactively added me on WeChat. Our work brought us into contact several times afterwards. He admired my independence and resilience, and I valued his respect and clarity of mind. He never pried into my past nor tried to control my life. He'd simply send a quiet remember to rest if I was working late, or offer sound advice when I hit a professional snag. Our relationship wasn't a blazing fire, but more like steeping tea in warm water, a gradual, gentle warmth that grew steadily, mellow and enduring. That day, Jiang Chen asked me to take a walk with him by the sea. The setting sun dyed the ocean surface a brilliant gold, and the sea breeze brushed against my cheeks, carrying a faint, salty tang. He stopped walking and looked at me earnestly. Ting Xue, I know you've been hurt before, so you're hesitant to open your heart, but I want you to know, I'm not looking for someone who depends on me. I want a partner, someone to walk beside me through life. If you're willing, we could give it a try. I looked into his sincere eyes, a warm feeling spreading in my chest, and nodded. There were no grand vows or dramatic promises, yet it meant more to me than any flowery words ever could. A year later, my studio had become a small but respected brand in the new media visual design industry, with clients across the country and annual revenue surpassing $1 million. Jiang Chen and I held a simple wedding ceremony, no extravagant display, just our families and closest friends. My mother held my hand, her eyes glistening. Ting Xue, I'm so happy for you, my dear. You finally found the happiness that's truly yours. The day after the wedding, Jiang Chen and I left for our honeymoon. As the plane took off and I watched the city shrink below, I was suddenly reminded of that morning many years ago, clutching a bank card. Fleeing in a panic from a past that suffocated me, with only one thought in mind, to get as far away from Lu Jingshan as possible. Back then, I never could have imagined the life I have today, a successful career, a loving partner, a warm family, and the freedom to live on my own terms. I took out my phone and scrolled to the last message Li Wei had sent me about Lu Jingshan. His mother had finally passed away. He was buried in debt and could only work on construction sites to repay it. His life was a struggle. No one spoke of him and Song Qinglan anymore, as if they had never existed in each other's lives. I deleted the message, turned off my phone, and leaned my head on Jiang Chen's shoulder. He took my hand and asked softly, "What are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking, everything happened for the best," I said with a smile. "All that past hurt and pain has become a badge of growth. It taught me how to love myself, how to recognize true sincerity, and how to steadfastly pursue the life I want." Lu Jingshan and Song Qinglan were just stumbling blocks on my path. I stepped over them, and that's how I saw the vast, open world ahead. The plane pierced through the clouds, heading toward a sunlit horizon. I know there may still be challenges and hardships ahead, but I'm no longer afraid.